Victor Reeves massaged his temples as he stared at the confirmation email for their Japan trip. $11,400. Nearly half a year's worth of overtime shifts at the architectural firm, countless weekends sacrificed, and meticulous financial planning. But Allison's 40th birthday deserved something extraordinary. 21 years of marriage had weathered them both. Victor had built his reputation as one of Philadelphia's most respected structural engineers, while Allison had transformed her small photography hobby into a successful studio. Their two children, Lily, 19, and Noah, 16, had grown into individuals with minds of their own, sometimes too much so. "You booked it." Allison appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand, her copper hair tied in a messy bun. Victor nodded, unable to suppress his smile. 2 weeks in Japan. Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka. The works. Allison's voice held genuine surprise. "Victor, this is amazing." Our relationship had cooled over recent years. Conversations reduced to logistics and schedules. This trip was Victor's attempt to rekindle what they'd lost. Premium economy flights, 4-star accommodations. I even scheduled that Mount Fuji photography tour you've always talked about. Allison placed her mug down and kissed his cheek, the first spontaneous affection in months. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, Victor noticed a shift in Allison. She texted constantly, smiling at her phone. When he asked, she mentioned reunion plans with old friends before the trip. The next morning, Victor discovered an unknown contact in Allison's phone while she showered. David R. The messages made his blood run cold. "David, can't wait to see Japan with you. Like old times." "Allison, Victor thinks it's a family trip. Don't worry, I've got it covered." Victor's hands trembled. David Reynolds, Allison's college boyfriend before Victor. The photographer who taught her everything. The one who'd moved to Seattle after their breakup. Apparently, he'd returned to Philadelphia last year. Instead of confronting her immediately, Victor decided to wait and observe. Over dinner, Allison announced she'd be busy preparing a gallery exhibition before their trip. Lily seemed unusually interested in these preparations, offering to help at the studio. Noah remained absorbed in his gaming world, barely participating in family conversations. At work, Victor's colleague Russell noticed his distraction. "Everything all right? Thought you'd be excited about Japan." "I am," Victor lied, burying himself in the structural plans for their new downtown project. As the trip approached, Victor noticed increasingly secretive conversations between Allison and Lily, whispers that stopped when he entered rooms. Shopping trips where they returned without packages. His wife's sudden interest in revitalizing her Japanese vocabulary from her college semester abroad, something she'd never mentioned planning for this trip. Victor began documenting everything meticulously, a habit from his engineering work. Patterns emerged in Allison's behavior: late nights at the studio, unexplained expenses, and a growing coldness toward him, contradicted by enthusiastic trip discussions with the children. One night, he followed her to what should have been her studio. Instead, she drove to an upscale apartment complex downtown. Through the lobby windows, Victor watched as she embraced a tall man with salt and pepper hair. David Reynolds had aged well, his artistic persona intact in his casual blazer and designer glasses. They disappeared into the elevator together. Victor returned home and pulled out the family's financial records. What he discovered stunned him. Allison had been systematically siphoning money from their joint accounts, small amounts that wouldn't trigger his attention, but substantial over time. Nearly $30,000 over the past year. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was calculated and stretched over the long term. Victor made a critical decision. Rather than confront, he would observe and plan. The architect in him knew that proper preparation was everything. He began transferring his personal assets to private accounts, documenting financial discrepancies, and quietly consulting a divorce attorney. 3 days before their scheduled departure, Victor overheard Lily on the phone in her bedroom. "Mom says David's fine with the twin bed situation since they'll be sharing anyway. Dad's clueless." "No, He thinks he's going to. It's Mom's birthday. She deserves to be with someone who makes her happy. Victor's world collapsed around him. Not just his wife, but his daughter was complicit in this betrayal. The Japan trip, his gift, his sacrifice, was being co-opted for his wife's affair, with his daughter's help. That night, Victor sat alone in his home office. The family photo on his desk now seemed like a cruel mockery. The calm, methodical engineer was gone. In his place sat a man with cold determination forming in his eyes. If they wanted to rewrite the rules of family loyalty, he would show them what it truly meant to burn bridges. The text arrived at 4:37 a.m. as Victor prepared for an early site inspection. The message from Lily was brazen in its casual cruelty. "We gave your spot to Mom's ex, David. He's more fun. Mom didn't know how to tell you. Sorry." Victor stared at the screen, a curious detachment washing over him. The emotional man would rage, plead, demand explanations. Instead, he felt something crystallize within him. A cold, precise clarity. He replied with 2 words. "Got it." At the construction site, Victor worked with mechanical efficiency. By noon, he'd excused himself, citing a family emergency. His first stop was their bank. "I'd like to discuss some unusual activity on our joint accounts," Victor told the manager, presenting documentation of Allison's withdrawals. The manager's expression shifted from professional concern to personal sympathy. "Mr. Reeves, I'll help however I can." By day's end, Victor had secured his finances, frozen joint accounts pending fraud investigation, and initiated a forensic audit of their shared assets. Next came the credit cards. All were canceled except one, which now had a dramatically reduced limit. He'd need that for evidence later. That evening, Noah found him in the garage organizing tools. "Dad, why aren't you packing? We leave tomorrow night." Victor regarded his son carefully. "Are you in on it too?" Noah's confusion seemed genuine. "In on what?" "Your mother and sister plan to replace me on the trip with David Reynolds." The color drained from Noah's face. "What? No. Who's David Reynolds?" Victor's suspicions were confirmed. Noah had been kept in the dark. "Your mother's ex-boyfriend. Apparently, he's taking my place on the trip I paid for." Noah's shock turned to anger. "That's messed up. Does Mom know you know?" "Not yet. And you won't tell her." "But Dad." "Listen carefully, Noah. You have a choice to make. Go on this trip knowing what they've done, or stay behind with me. Either way, things are changing in this family." Noah's expression hardened. "I'm not going anywhere with liars." For the first time that day, Victor felt a flicker of warmth. At least one family member had chosen loyalty. After Noah left, Victor called his attorney, Franklin Webb. "I need everything expedited, and I want the locks changed while they're gone." "Victor, changing locks before formal proceedings is legally questionable. I own the house outright. It was never in joint names. Check the deed." A pause. "You're right. Still, there are proper channels." "Franklin, they're taking my wife's lover on a vacation I paid for. I'm past proper channels." That night, Victor waited until everyone was asleep before accessing Allison's laptop. Her password, Lilinoa 2003, had never changed. Within minutes, he'd forwarded all communications between her and David to himself, including plans for their Japan rendezvous and discussions about their future together. Most damning was an email from 3 months ago. "David, I've secured most of what we need. Victor suspects nothing. After Japan, I'll file the papers. The kids will adjust. Lily already adores you. This house will fetch enough to give us the fresh start we deserve. Just a little longer in this charade." Victor also discovered Allison had been researching properties in Seattle, David's home base. Their betrayal wasn't spontaneous. It was a calculated extraction. The next morning, Allison and Lily bustled around packing, throwing occasional guilty glances his way. Victor maintained his normal routine, even helping load luggage into the car. "We should leave for the airport by 4, he said. Allison said cautiously, I have a late meeting. Take my car. More trunk space. I'll grab an Uber. Relief flooded her face at his apparent obliviousness. Perfect. I left your itinerary on the counter. As they prepared to leave, Victor hugged Noah goodbye, whispering, play along. I'll explain everything later. To Lily, his hug was mechanical. Enjoy Japan. Take lots of pictures. When Allison approached for a goodbye kiss, Victor turned, offering only his cheek. Happy birthday trip, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. After their departure, Victor and Noah sat at the kitchen table. What now, Dad? Victor opened his laptop. Now we cancel everything. With methodical precision, Victor called the airlines, hotels, tour companies, and transportation services. Using his status as the booking party and credit card holder, he canceled every reservation, citing unfortunate family circumstances. When cancellation fees applied, he paid them without hesitation. The Japan trip, all $11,400 worth, disappeared into the digital void. Next, he called a locksmith. By nightfall, new locks secured every door. Victor's phone buzzed constantly with frantic texts from Allison and Lily as they discovered their canceled flights at the check-in counter. He ignored them all. That night, Victor crafted a detailed email to Allison's clients and business associates, announcing her extended personal leave and referring her professional commitments to competitors. His careful wording avoided actionable defamation, while ensuring her business would wither in her absence. Noah watched his father's calculated dismantling with a mixture of awe and unease. Dad, what's happening to you? Victor looked up, something unfamiliar and dangerous in his eyes. Clarity, son. For the first time in years. Perfect clarity. While Allison, Lily, and David scrambled to salvage their Japan plans, Victor set in motion the second phase of his strategy. His years as an engineer had taught him that demolition required as much precision as construction. Noah, pack what matters to you. We're moving temporarily. Moving? Where? The Riverside property. The Riverside property was Victor's secret investment, a foreclosure he purchased and renovated 3 years earlier as a rental property. The tenants had vacated last month, and he hadn't listed it yet. A coincidence that now seemed like providence. At the property, Victor showed Noah around the modest but comfortable 3-bedroom house. Your mother doesn't know about this place. It's solely in my name. Purchased with my inheritance from Grandpa. Noah whistled. You've been planning this for years. No, just protecting my assets. Victor's expression darkened. But now it's our sanctuary. The next morning, Victor contacted the utility companies for their primary residence, arranging for services to be reduced to minimum levels while maintaining appearances of occupancy. He also hired a security company to install cameras monitoring all entrances. Franklin Webb arrived at the Riverside house with documents requiring signatures. This is moving extremely fast, Victor, the attorney cautioned. The courts don't respond well to perceived vindictiveness. This isn't vindictiveness, Franklin. It's self-preservation. Victor signed the petition for divorce, citing abandonment and adultery. Did you file the financial freeze? This morning. All joint accounts and assets are temporarily frozen pending court review. The forensic accountant's preliminary report supports your claims of financial impropriety. Noah, overhearing from the hallway, entered the room. You really aren't taking Mom back, are you? Victor met his son's gaze. Would you respect me if I did? Noah considered this. No. But I never thought you'd be so ruthless, Victor finished. Neither did I. After Franklin left, Victor received a call from Russell, his colleague. Allison's been trying to reach you through the office. She sounds desperate. Did she mention why? Something about being stranded in Chicago with canceled connections. Look, whatever's happening. Russell, I need a favor. That Palmer project we've been discussing. I'd like to accelerate it. The Palmer project was a luxury condominium development where Victor's firm had been contracted for structural engineering. David Reynolds had recently been hired as the architectural photographer, information Victor had discovered in Allison's emails. Accelerate. That's at least 6 months away. Not anymore. I want preliminary site evaluation next week. Victor, what's going on? Professional opportunity, Russell. Nothing more. After ending the call, Victor checked the security footage from their home. A locksmith was attempting to drill their new locks while Allison's mother supervised. Looking distressed, Victor called the police, reporting a break-in at his residence. The responding officers, presented with Victor's deed of exclusive ownership, escorted the locksmith and his mother-in-law off the property. Meanwhile, Noah had been unusually quiet. Victor found him staring at his phone. "Lily's been texting me," Noah explained. "They're staying at a hotel in Chicago. Mom's credit cards aren't working, and David doesn't have enough to cover new tickets to Japan. They're fighting about money." Victor nodded. Financial stress reveals true character. "Lily says they're coming home tomorrow. She wants to know if you're here. Tell her we're staying with Russell. Don't mention Riverside." The next day, Victor received notification that Allison had attempted to withdraw funds from their home equity line of credit, a move preemptively blocked by his financial preparations. Hours later, she tried accessing their investment accounts, triggering security alerts. Noah's phone rang continuously with calls from both Allison and Lily, which he answered selectively, maintaining the fiction that he and Victor were staying with friends. "They'll be home tonight," Noah reported after one call. "Mom sounds weird, like scary calm." "The calm of someone plotting," Victor noted. "Any mention of David?" "He's coming too. Lily says he's been incredibly supportive, whatever that means." Victor checked the security cameras again. The house remained undisturbed, its darkened windows a silent rebuke to the family that had betrayed its provider. That evening, they watched through the security feeds as a taxi delivered Allison, Lily, and David to the house. Their confusion at the new locks quickly turned to anger. Allison pounded on the door, while Lily circled the property, peering through windows. David remained on the sidewalk, his body language suggesting discomfort with the unfolding drama. Victor observed their escalating panic with detached interest. When Allison finally called the police herself, he remotely activated the exterior lights and sound system, flooding the property with brightness and classical music. Vivaldi's Winter from the Four Seasons, a piece Allison particularly disliked. The arriving officers, finding no signs of disturbance, suggested Allison contact her husband about the changed locks. One officer, noticing David, asked his relationship to the property. The awkward explanations that followed were captured perfectly by Victor's cameras. "Dad, this is getting intense," Noah said, watching the scene unfold on Victor's laptop. "They literally have nowhere to go." "They have David's apartment," Victor replied. "The same apartment where your mother has been spending her late nights at the studio for months." As if on cue, the trio eventually returned to their taxi, dejected and arguing visibly, even through the soundless video feed. Victor closed his laptop. "And so ends Act 1. "What does that mean?" Noah asked. "It means tomorrow we start showing them the consequences of betrayal." Victor checked his watch. The contractors arrive at 7 to begin work on the house. "What contractors? What work?" Victor's smile was cold. "Complete renovation. Every surface your mother selected, every design choice she made, gone. By the time I'm finished, she won't recognize the home she planned to sell out from under me." Noah looked at his father with new understanding. "This isn't just about punishing Mom, is it? You're erasing her." "Not erasing, no. Replacing. There's a difference." Victor placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be instructive for both of us." As Noah left for his room, Victor opened his email to find a message from the forensic accountant. Preliminary findings suggest systematic financial diversion dating back approximately 18 months. Estimated total, $43,700. Additional evidence of a separate account established under Allison's maiden name. Recommend immediate legal action. Victor forwarded the email to Franklin with a single instruction: proceed. The foundation for his revenge was now firmly established. The architect of betrayal would soon learn that Victor Reeves designed not just buildings, but consequences, with the same precision, patience, and uncompromising attention to detail. 3 days after being locked out of their home, Allison finally reached Victor by phone. Her voice alternated between conciliatory and threatening. "Victor, this is childish. We need to talk like adults." "I agree. My attorney will contact yours." "Attorney? We don't need attorneys. Just let us back into our home, and we can discuss this rationally." "Our home." Victor's voice remained steady. "The deed bears only my name, Allison, a fact you were apparently planning to overlook when selling it." A heavy silence. "You read my emails?" "Yes. That's invasion of privacy. It's less invasive than bringing your lover on a family vacation, less deceptive than embezzling from our accounts. Tell me, which violation ranks higher in your moral hierarchy?" Another pause. "The children need their home. Noah is with me. As for Lily, she made her choice. How's David's pull-out couch working for her?" Allison's voice hardened. "This won't end well for you, Victor. Courts favor mothers. Courts also favor documented evidence. I have 18 months of financial records showing your systematic theft. I have communications detailing your plan to defraud me of my property. And I have 24 witnesses who can testify to your affair." "Witnesses? What witnesses?" "The dinner reservations you made under David's name, the hotel check-ins, the gallery events where you arrived separately but left together. People notice patterns, Allison, especially when I specifically ask them to recall details." For the first time, fear crept into her voice. "What do you want?" "Justice," Victor replied simply. "Nothing more. Nothing less. Let me get my things, at least. My photography equipment." "Your equipment was purchased with marital funds that you systematically diverted. It's evidence now." "Victor, please. My attorney will contact you by end of day. Until then, consider how quickly fortunes change. One day you're planning a luxurious getaway with your lover using your husband's money. The next, you're begging for access to the tools of your trade." Victor ended the call. Noah had been listening nearby. "Mom sounds scared." "Fear is an appropriate response to consequences," Victor noted, returning to his laptop, where renovation plans for their family home were displayed. "The contractors begin demolition on her studio space tomorrow." Noah fidgeted with his phone. "Lily keeps texting. So she didn't know about Mom and David until recently." "When?" 3 months ago, apparently." Victor nodded. "And yet she helped orchestrate my replacement on the trip, rather than telling me the truth. She said she was trying to protect Mom's happiness. At my expense. Interesting moral calculation for a 19-year-old. Victor closed his laptop. "How are you doing with all this?" Noah shrugged. "Confused. Angry. Part of me thinks this is too extreme. But then," he looked up, "but then I remember what they did. And I get it." Victor placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "There's a difference between revenge and justice. Noah, revenge is emotional. Justice is proportional." "Which is this?" Victor's expression remained unreadable. "We'll see." The following day, Franklin Webb arrived with court documents. The judge granted the emergency order freezing all marital assets. Allison's attorney has requested an emergency hearing. "Good. When?" "Tomorrow at 2. You'll need to appear." Victor nodded. "I'll be there." "There's something else." Franklin hesitated. "David Reynolds has filed a harassment claim. Says you interfered with his professional contract at Palmer Development." This was unexpected. Victor had merely accelerated the timeline for a project where David was contracted as a photographer. Interesting interpretation. The project was moved forward on legitimate business grounds. Perhaps, But combined with the other actions you've taken, it creates a pattern that could be problematic. I understand. Anything else? Yes. Allison's studio landlord called. Your renovation crew changed the locks and denied her access to retrieve client materials. The studio lease is in my name. Payments made from our joint account. Her client materials are on equipment purchased with marital funds she diverted. It's all documented. Franklin sighed. Victor, the courts appreciate clean hands. These actions, while perhaps technically justified, might create sympathy for Allison. I'm not concerned with sympathy, Franklin. Only accountability. After Franklin left, Victor drove to the family home to inspect the renovation progress. The living room walls had been stripped to the studs. The imported Italian marble fireplace Allison had insisted on was now a pile of rubble. The kitchen's custom cabinetry lay dismantled on the floor, awaiting removal. The foreman approached. We're on schedule for the studio tomorrow. Complete gutting, like you specified. Good. Make sure nothing leaves the premises. Everything must be inventoried. As Victor was leaving, a black SUV pulled up. David Reynolds emerged, looking considerably less composed than in the apartment and counter weeks earlier. Reeves, we need to talk. Victor regarded him with clinical detachment. I have nothing to say to you. This has gone far enough. You've made your point. Have I? Interesting assessment from the man sleeping with my wife in an apartment I'm still indirectly paying for. David flushed. Look, I understand you're hurt. Hurt? Victor's laugh was devoid of humor. You misunderstand me fundamentally. I'm not hurt. I'm simply responding proportionally to actions taken against me. By destroying Allison's business. By leaving your own daughter homeless. My daughter chose sides in a conflict she helped create. As for Allison's business, she was planning to abandon it anyway. Your Seattle plans required it. David paled. How did you? I know everything, Reynolds. Every email, every text, every whispered plan. I know about the property searches, the school district research for Lily, the job inquiries you made on Allison's behalf. I know you've been calculating home equity and liquid assets. That's private information. So was my marriage. Victor stepped closer. Here's what happens next. You will cease all communication with my attorneys. You will withdraw your harassment claim. And you will encourage Allison to accept the settlement terms my lawyers provide. Or what? Or I continue. This, Victor gestured toward the house under renovation, is merely the beginning. I have resources you've clearly miscalculated, patience you've underestimated, and resolve you cannot comprehend. David's expression wavered between anger and uncertainty. You can intimidate me. I'm not trying to intimidate you. I'm educating you. Victor checked his watch. Now you're trespassing on my property. The security cameras have recorded this entire conversation. I suggest you leave before I contact the authorities. After David departed, Victor received a text from Noah. Lily called crying, says David and Mom are fighting about money. She wants to come stay with us. Victor's reply was immediate. Only if she's prepared for complete honesty. That evening, Lily arrived at the Riverside house, her defiance visibly diminished. Dad. Not now, Victor interrupted. There are conditions to your staying here. First, complete honesty. Second, acknowledgement of your role in this situation. Third, acceptance that your actions have consequences. Lily's tears flowed freely. I thought I was helping Mom. By betraying me. Interesting moral calculus. I didn't know about the money stuff. I just knew she and David reconnected, and were happy together. Victor's expression remained impassive, and my happiness was irrelevant. Lily looked away. I thought you two were basically done anyway. You were always working, hardly talked. So you appointed yourself judge of our marriage and executioner of my trip. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Everything's falling apart now. Mom's a mess. David's freaking out about money. My classes start next week, and I don't even have my stuff. Victor nodded. Consequences often arrive inconveniently. He handed her a key. Your room is upstairs, second door on the right. We discuss terms tomorrow. As Lily trudged upstairs, Noah approached Victor. Are you really going to forgive her? Victor watched his daughter's retreating form. Forgiveness requires repentance, Noah. What I'm seeing is regret over consequences, not actions. There's a significant difference. The next day, Victor appeared in court for the emergency hearing. Allison sat with her attorney, her usually immaculate appearance now harried. When the judge ruled to maintain the asset freeze, pending full financial investigation, citing the substantial evidence of financial impropriety, Allison's composure cracked. He's destroying everything I've built, she shouted. My business, my home. Miss Caldwell, the judge interrupted, using Allison's maiden name as legally specified in the filings. The evidence suggests you were planning similar destruction of the marital assets. Your objection is noted, but overruled. Outside the courtroom, Allison confronted Victor. You've turned my own children against me. I've done nothing of the sort. Noah made his choice based on truth. Lily is merely experiencing the natural outcome of betrayal. This isn't about the trip or David. This is about control. You can't stand that I found happiness outside your precious plans. Victor regarded her coldly. If that were true, I would have confronted you months ago when your affair began. Instead, I waited and observed. What I saw wasn't pursuit of happiness, Allison. It was calculated theft and betrayal. I needed security. You were always working, building your precious career while I raised our children. The children you were prepared to relocate across the country without consultation. The home you planned to sell without my knowledge. That's security. Allison's voice lowered. What do you want from me, Victor? Nothing. Not anymore. He turned to leave. The attorney said you're offering settlement terms. Victor paused. Yes, generous ones, considering the circumstances. What circumstances? The felony-level financial fraud I could pursue, but won't, provided you cooperate. As Victor walked away, he heard Allison call after him. You'll regret this, Victor. No one will believe you're the victim here. He didn't bother turning around. The architect had his blueprint, and construction was proceeding exactly to specification. 1 week into their new living arrangement, the dynamics at the Riverside house had established their own rhythm. Noah maintained his distance from Lily, whose contrition waxed and waned depending on her latest communication with Allison. Victor worked remotely, overseeing both his professional projects and the systematic dismantling of his former life. The renovation of the family home had become something of a local spectacle. Neighbors watched as 20 years of careful decoration and design were gutted and replaced. Victor's specifications were exacting. Everything Allison had chosen was removed, from the Spanish tile in the entryway to the custom-built reading nook in the master bedroom. Franklin Webb arrived one afternoon with settlement documents. Allison's attorney has requested mediation. Victor reviewed the papers. No mediation. These terms are non-negotiable. Victor, the judge might view this as unnecessarily punitive. The judge has seen the financial records. He's reviewed the communications planning my financial evisceration. These terms are actually quite generous. Franklin sighed. 50-50 property division is standard. You're offering 30%. After accounting for the funds she diverted, it is 50-50. I'm simply reclaiming what was taken. And the business equipment. Her professional future depends on that. Her professional future was forfeit the moment she used business funds to finance her affair. Besides, the settlement includes a reasonable stipend for new equipment. The house remains with me, as it always was. She receives fair market value for her interest, minus renovation costs necessary after her abandonment. Franklin gathered the documents. I'll convey your position. After he left, Victor found Lily in the kitchen, pretending not to have overheard. You really won't negotiate with Mom? She asked. Your mother had nearly 2 years to negotiate honestly. She chose deception instead. People make mistakes, Dad. A mistake is accidental. Lily. Your mother's actions were deliberate and sustained. Victor poured himself coffee. How are your class preparations coming? Fine. David dropped off some of my things yesterday. Victor's cup paused midway to his lips. David was here. At this house. Lily nodded. Just for a minute. Mom doesn't know. He said he wants to help fix things. Interesting timing, his sudden concern for fixing things. What does that mean? It means David Reynolds' professional reputation is suffering. 3 major contracts canceled this week. Curious coincidence. Lily's eyes widened. You're sabotaging his work. I've done nothing of the sort. I simply shared factual information with relevant parties about his ethics and reliability. Dad. That's justice. Victor finished, or perhaps karma. Either way, actions have consequences. That evening, Victor received a call from an unknown number. Mr. Reeves, this is Isabella Martinez from Westfield Academy. Victor recognized the name of Lily's private university. Yes, Ms. Martinez. I'm calling about Lily's tuition payment for the fall semester. We've received notice of a stop payment on the check. That's correct. I've transferred Lily to State University. I see. We haven't received a formal withdrawal notice. You will by tomorrow. Thank you for calling. When Victor informed Lily of the change, her reaction was predictably volatile. You can't do this. Westfield was our agreement. That agreement predated your participation in betraying me. State University has an excellent photography program. Your scholarship transfers. My friends are at Westfield. My housing deposit. Consider it part of the cost of your education, just not the academic kind. Noah, who had been silently observing their exchanges, finally spoke up. Dad, maybe that's going too far. Victor turned to his son. Is it? Your sister conspired to exclude me from a trip I financed, lied repeatedly to my face, and helped facilitate your mother's affair. Actions have consequences, Noah. This is merely one of hers. Later that night, Victor received a text from David Reynolds. We need to talk. Just us. Against his better judgment, Victor agreed to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. David was already waiting when he arrived, looking haggard. Thank you for coming, David said. David began. Make it quick. I wanted to apologize. What happened with the trip? It wasn't supposed to go that way. Victor's expression remained impassive. Enlighten me on the proper way to exclude a husband from his family vacation. David shifted uncomfortably. That was wrong. I knew it was wrong. Yet you participated. Why are we here, Reynolds? Because this has gone far enough. You've made your point. Allison is devastated. Her business is collapsing. Lily's education is in jeopardy. And your photography contracts are disappearing, Victor added. Curious how actions have ripple effects. David leaned forward. Look, I get it. I'd be furious too. But this scorched earth approach, no one wins. That's where you're wrong. I'm winning quite decisively. At what cost? Your family was destroyed the moment you and Allison began plotting. Don't mistake my response for the cause. David ran a hand through his hair. What will it take to end this? Victor considered the man before him. The renowned photographer now reduced to pleading in a coffee shop. Full disclosure. Everything. When it started, who knew what was planned? And then what? Then I'll consider whether further measures are necessary. David hesitated, then nodded. Allison contacted me when I moved back last year. Just professional at first. I needed a studio space. She had connections. Continue. It became personal around Christmas. She said your marriage was essentially over. Separate lives. No intimacy for years. Victor's expression didn't change, though the information stung. Go on. By February, we were seeing each other regularly. The Japan trip was her idea. Said you'd suggested it, but weren't enthusiastic. Said you probably prefer working anyway. And the financial aspects. David looked down. She said she was securing her future, that you'd controlled the money for years, and she needed independence. Did you believe that? I wanted to. But after seeing how you responded, I realized I'd been manipulated too. Victor leaned back. Who else knew? Her friend Natalie. Lily found out accidentally in March, walked in on us at the studio. Allison convinced her it was better for everyone if you and she separated. And my replacement on the trip. David winced. Last-minute idea. Allison thought you might be relieved not to go. Lily suggested the text approach. Said a clean break was better. Victor absorbed this information silently. And your future plans. Seattle was the goal. Fresh start for everyone. Allison said you'd be fine. Married to your work anyway. Convenient narrative. David met his gaze. I'm not proud of any of this, but destroying them won't undo what happened. Victor stood. Thank you for your honesty. It changes nothing. What? After all that? You participated willingly in the systematic betrayal of a man you barely knew, based solely on the narrative provided by a woman with obvious self-interest. You pursued a relationship with a married woman. You accepted stolen funds. And you were prepared to participate in the destruction of my family for your benefit. Victor's voice remained calm, almost clinical. Your contrition now, motivated clearly by self-preservation, means precisely nothing to me. As Victor walked away, David called after him. She didn't tell you the whole truth about Japan. Victor paused. Meaning? It wasn't just a vacation. She was meeting with gallery owners there, planning to relocate her career permanently. With this final piece, the pattern completed itself in Victor's mind. Not just an affair, not just financial diversion, but a complete extraction and relocation, using his money to finance her escape. That night, Victor made 2 phone calls. The first to Franklin Webb, instructing him to amend the settlement offered, downward by 20%. The second to a real estate agent, listing the family home for sale as is, with renovation and progress. When Noah questioned this escalation, Victor explained simply, it's no longer about equivalence. It's about establishing a clear message. Betrayal carries unsustainable costs. Lily, overhearing this, confronted her father. You're enjoying this. Their suffering makes you happy. Victor regarded his daughter calmly. I take no pleasure in necessity, Lily. But I won't apologize for enforcing consequences. We're still your family. Are we? Family implies loyalty, honesty, mutual support. You demonstrated none of these. People make mistakes. Yes, they do. And wise people learn from observing the consequences of others' mistakes. Victor returned to his laptop. Your tuition at State is paid. Your housing is arranged. The rest is up to you. As Lily stormed off, Noel lingered. Dad, is there any way back from this? For any of us? Victor considered his son's question seriously. Forward, no. Not back. We move forward. That night, Allison called, her voice brittle with barely controlled emotion. You listed our house. While it's being gutted. My house. And yes. How am I supposed to start over with nothing? The same way I was expected to after you and David completed your plan. The difference is, you'll have 30% of our assets. I was to be left with considerably less. Victor, please. We can work this out. We are working it out, through legal channels, as civilized people do. This isn't civilized. It's vindictive, perhaps, but it's proportional. Sleep well, Allison. As Victor ended the call, he realized something had shifted within him. The cold anger that had driven him these past weeks was crystallizing into something more permanent, a fundamental recalibration of his understanding of trust, family, and justice. The architect was becoming something else entirely. 3 weeks after the failed Japan trip, Victor's systematic dismantling of his former life continued with mechanical precision. The family home, still undergoing aggressive renovation, had received multiple offers despite its gutted condition. Allison's studio space had been completely cleared, its contents catalogued and stored as evidence of marital asset diversion, and David Reynolds' professional reputation had deteriorated to the point where he'd been reduced to shooting passport photos at a chain store. Franklin Webb arrived at the Riverside house with an unexpected development. Allison's filed a countersuit, claims emotional abuse and financial coercion throughout the marriage. Victor accepted the documents without visible reaction. Interesting strategy. It's a desperate move, but potentially damaging. She submitted affidavits from her therapist, suggesting long-term psychological control. When did she begin seeing this therapist? Franklin checked his notes, approximately 14 months ago, coinciding with the beginning of her financial diversion. Establishing groundwork for her narrative. Victor scanned the documents. She's requesting psychological evaluation. For both of you, standard in contentious divorces with abuse allegations. I have no objection. Schedule it immediately. Franklin seemed surprised. Most clients resist evaluation. I have nothing to hide. Franklin, my actions have been reactive, not causative. After Franklin left, Victor found Noah in the kitchen, clearly having overheard. Mom's saying you abused her. Noah asked incredulously. She's establishing a counter-narrative. Standard tactics when evidence is against you. But it's not true. Truth is surprisingly malleable in legal proceedings, no. Perception often outweighs fact. Later that day, Victor received an unexpected visitor. Natalie Winters, Allison's closest friend, waited nervously on his doorstep. Victor, please. 5 minutes. He allowed her inside, maintaining a careful distance. What can I do for you, Natalie? This has to stop. Allison is falling apart. David's left her. Lily's devastated about school. Enough is enough. Victor offered her water, which she declined. I appreciate your concern, but this situation has clear resolution parameters. Allison need only accept the settlement terms. Those terms are punitive, and you know it. They're proportional to her actions. Had she discussed divorce honestly, we would have divided assets equitably. Instead, she chose systematic theft and deception. Natalie's expression shifted from pleading to accusatory. So this is punishment. This is consequence. There's a difference. She made a mistake. A mistake is momentary, Natalie. Allison engaged in sustained, calculated betrayal lasting nearly 2 years. Victor leaned forward. Tell me, as her confidant, when did you become aware of her relationship with David? Natalie hesitated. That's not relevant. On the contrary, it establishes the pattern of premeditation. You knew last year, didn't you? Before Christmas. Her silence confirmed his assumption. And you knew about the financial diversion, the plans for Seattle. She was unhappy. Victor, you were distant, obsessed with work. Interesting how her narrative omitted the purpose of those additional work hours. The college funds I was building, the retirement accounts I was securing, the very Japan trip that became the vehicle for my exclusion. Natalie looked away. She didn't see it that way. Clearly, she saw only opportunity for extraction and replacement. Victor stood. Your 5 minutes are up. Please tell Allison that my terms remain unchanged. If she proceeds with false abuse allegations, I will be forced to escalate accordingly. Escalate how? You've already taken everything. Victor's expression remained impassive. Not everything, Natalie. Not yet. After she left, Victor received a call from the university where he occasionally lectured. The department chair sounded uncomfortable. Victor, there's been a complaint. A former student alleges you made advances during office hours last year. The accusation was so absurd that Victor nearly laughed. That's patently false. Who made this allegation? The complaint was anonymous, but the alleged incident coincides with your guest lecture series last fall. I see. You'll find my lecture schedule precluded any private office hours. All student consultations occurred in the department lounge with multiple witnesses. We'll investigate, of course, but I wanted to give you a heads up. These things can escalate quickly. After ending the call, Victor immediately contacted Franklin. "We have a new development. Anonymous misconduct allegation at the university." "Coincidental timing," Franklin noted dryly. "Indeed. I need documentation of my lecture schedule and witness statements from department staff, confirming all student interactions occurred in public spaces." "You think Allison is behind this?" "Perhaps, or someone in her circle attempting to apply pressure." That evening, Noah returned from visiting friends, looking troubled. "Dad, people are talking. Someone started a rumor that you got fired for harassing a student." "Not surprising. When evidence fails, character assassination becomes the weapon of choice. But it's a lie. Can't you sue or something?" "We're addressing it appropriately." Victor studied his son. "Are you holding up?" Noah shrugged. "It's weird. Half my friends think you're a monster for what you're doing to Mom. The other half think you're some kind of revenge genius. And what do you think?" "I think—" Noah hesitated. "I think you're right about consequences, but sometimes I wonder where it ends. It ends when justice is satisfied. Not before." Later that night, Victor received a text from an unknown number. "You can't prove anything about the university complaint, but there will be more. Stop now or watch your reputation burn." Instead of responding, Victor forwarded the message to Franklin with instructions to trace the number and add it to their evidence file. He then checked the security cameras at both properties. All was quiet, the night heavy with the sense of anticipation, an uneasy calm before whatever storm might follow. The family home showed no activity, but at the Riverside house, a car had driven by twice in the past hour, slowing each time. Victor recognized the vehicle, David Reynolds' distinctive vintage Volvo. The next morning, Franklin called with unsettling news. "Victor, there's been a development. Someone sent your firm's managing partner's documentation, suggesting financial impropriety on the Palmer project." "What documentation?" "Fabricated, clearly, but convincing enough that they've initiated an internal audit." Victor had anticipated this escalation. "Tell them I welcome the audit. In fact, I've prepared a complete file of all communications and decisions relating to the Palmer project." "You expected this." "I expected desperate measures from desperate people." Later that day, the psychological evaluation Franklin had arranged took place. Victor answered all questions truthfully, providing documentation for every significant claim. When asked about his current actions toward Allison, he described them as a proportional response to sustained betrayal, without emotion or defensiveness. The evaluator seemed particularly interested in Victor's methodical approach. "Most people in your situation express anger, Mr. Reeves. You seem remarkably detached. Anger clouds judgment. I prefer clarity. Some might see this level of calculated response as concerning. Some might. Others might recognize it as appropriate boundary enforcement." After the evaluation, Victor drove to the family home to check on the renovation progress. The property was nearly unrecognizable. Every trace of Allison's design preferences was systematically removed and replaced with Victor's architectural vision. The Spanish courtyard she had insisted on was now a modern meditation garden. The farmhouse kitchen had been replaced with clean, minimalist surfaces. As he inspected the master bathroom renovation, his phone rang. It was Lily, sounding panicked. "Dad, have you seen the news?" "What news?" "It's all over social media. Someone leaked photos of you leaving a hotel with a woman last year. They're saying you were having an affair." Victor remained calm. "What hotel?" "Lily. The Westbrook downtown. February last year." Victor immediately recalled the date. That was the architectural conference. The woman was Elena Gonzalez, project manager from our Denver office. We had a breakfast meeting with clients. That's not how they're framing it. Mom's friends are sharing it everywhere. Truth withstands scrutiny, Lily. False narratives collapse under investigation. After ending the call, Victor contacted his firm's legal department, explaining the situation and requesting security footage from the hotel lobby. showing the entire project team entering for their documented meeting. That evening, he received another unexpected visitor. David Reynolds stood on his doorstep, looking significantly worse than at their coffee shop encounter. "You've won, Reeves. Happy now?" Victor regarded him dispassionately. "This isn't a competition, Reynolds. Tell that to Allison. She's having panic attacks. Can't sleep. Her medication isn't working. Perhaps she should discuss that with her therapist, the one she's been seeing conveniently since beginning her affair." David's shoulders slumped. "I left her, okay. It's over between us. I'm moving back to Seattle alone. Will that satisfy you?" "My satisfaction isn't dependent on your relationship status." "Then what do you want?" "Justice. Accountability. Recognition of transgression." David's frustration boiled over. "She's suffering. Isn't that enough?" "Suffering without understanding is merely pain, Reynolds. It teaches nothing." As David turned to leave, he delivered a parting shot. "You know why she looked elsewhere? Because living with you is like living with a machine. All logic, no heart. Congratulations on proving her right." The words should have stung. But Victor found himself analyzing them with the same detached curiosity he applied to structural failures in his professional work. Was there truth there? Perhaps. But even machines, when pushed beyond tolerances, experienced catastrophic failure. What Allison and her allies failed to understand was that Victor's methodical response wasn't the absence of emotion. It was emotion channeled through discipline. Not coldness, but control. That night, he received a call from Franklin Webb. "The psychological evaluations are complete. Results mixed." Meaning, the evaluator noted your concerning level of calculated response, but found no evidence of historical abuse or control, as Allison alleged. Her evaluation showed significant anxiety and emotional distress, but also patterns of manipulation and selective disclosure. Net impact on proceedings: neutral. Her abuse allegations won't stand. But your approach isn't winning sympathy either. "I'm not seeking sympathy, Franklin. Only resolution." After ending the call, Victor found Noah waiting in the hallway. "Why won't you just end this, Dad? Haven't they suffered enough?" Victor studied his son. "Suffering isn't the objective, Noah. Understanding is." "Understanding what?" "That betrayal carries unsustainable cost." Victor placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "This ends when the lesson is learned, not before." 6 weeks after the failed Japan trip, Victor's systematic dismantling of his former life had reached a critical juncture. The family home had sold for above asking price despite its renovation state. The proceeds were held in escrow pending divorce settlement. Allison's abuse allegations had been dismissed for lack of evidence, while the university harassment claim had collapsed under scrutiny. David Reynolds had indeed returned to Seattle, his professional reputation in tatters. Franklin Webb arrived at the Riverside house with new settlement documents. Allison's attorney has accepted your core terms, with minor modifications. Victor reviewed the papers. She's requesting the photography equipment be excluded from marital assets. Yes, given her livelihood depends on it, the judge is likely to be sympathetic. Agreed. She can have the equipment. Franklin seemed surprised by Victor's ready concession. Just like that. The equipment was never the point, Franklin. It was leverage. Later that day, Victor received an unexpected call from Natalie Winters. "We need to talk about Allison." "I'm listening." "She's been hospitalized. Anxiety attack. So severe they thought it was cardiac. She's asking to see you." Victor considered this development. "Where?" "She's at Mercy General, at the hospital." Victor found Allison in a private room, looking pale and diminished. Monitors tracked her vital signs, while an IV delivered fluids. "You came," she said, her voice hoarse. "Yes." "Why?" "After everything." Victor took the chair beside her bed. "Because suffering without understanding is merely pain. It teaches nothing." Allison closed her eyes briefly. "Always the professor." "Why am I here, Allison?" Because I need this to end. She struggled to sit up. You've won. Completely. I have nothing left. This was never about winning. Then what? Punishment. Revenge. Justice. Consequences proportional to actions. Allison's laugh was bitter. Proportional. You've destroyed everything. My business, my reputation, my relationship with Lily, my future with David. All things you were prepared to destroy for me, without discussion, warning, or remorse. She fell silent, the monitors recording her elevated heart rate. You planned my extraction, systematically, Victor continued, his voice clinically detached. Financial diversion, emotional isolation, character assassination groundwork through your therapist, relationship replacement with David, and ultimately, property liquidation and geographic relocation. My discovery accelerated your timeline. Nothing more. It wasn't like that. The evidence suggests otherwise. Tell me, in your extraction plan, what was my allocated portion? What did I merit after 21 years? Allison looked away. You would have been fine. You had your work, your reputation, and nothing else. No family, no financial security, no home. A carefully constructed void. I wasn't happy, Victor. For years. A conversation might have addressed that. Instead, you chose systematic betrayal. The room fell silent except for the rhythm of the monitors. Finally, Allison spoke, her voice barely audible. What do you want from me now? Acknowledgement, not just of your actions, but their intended consequences. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I wanted out. I wanted a new life. I didn't think about what would happen to you. No, you didn't. And this, all of this, is my punishment for that blindness. Not punishment. Education. Victor stood. I'll sign the modified settlement agreement. The photography equipment is yours. The remaining terms stand. As he turned to leave, Allison called after him. There's no coming back from this, is there? For any of us. Victor paused in the doorway, considering her question and the ghost of the life they had shared. Then, with a final glance, he left her to her thoughts, their story now marked by lessons that would not be forgotten. Victor paused at the door. There never was. That was your decision, the moment you chose betrayal over honesty. Outside the hospital, Victor found Noah waiting in the car. How is she? Physically stable, emotionally fragile. Did you forgive her? Victor started the engine. Forgiveness requires genuine repentance, no. What I witnessed was regret over consequences, not actions. So it's still not over. The legal process continues, but the personal resolution is complete. That evening, Lily arrived at the Riverside house, her expression troubled. I heard about Mom. Is she okay? She's recovering. The equipment concession has been made. Lily nodded. I visited her earlier. She said you were calm. Cold. I was rational. There's a difference. She thinks you hate her. Hate requires emotional investment. I no longer maintain that. Lily studied her father. What happened to you? You used to be different. Betrayal changes perspectives. Lily. It realigns priorities. Later that night, Victor received a call from Russell at the firm. The internal audit cleared you completely, Victor. False alarm. As expected. There's something else. The partners want to discuss your future. Jensen's retiring next year. Victor understood the implication. Jensen was managing partner for international development, a significant promotion opportunity. When? Monday morning. And Victor, despite everything, you've handled this situation with remarkable professionalism. The partners have noticed. After ending the call, Victor checked the security cameras at both properties out of habit. At the family home, now empty but still under renovation, he noticed unusual activity. A vehicle had been parked across the street for over an hour, its occupant occasionally taking photographs. Victor zoomed the camera, capturing the license plate, and sent it to his security contact for identification. The response came within minutes. registered to private investigator Leonard Michaels, Sentinel Securities. This was an unexpected development. Victor immediately contacted Franklin. Someone is surveilling the family home. Private investigator. Unusual at this stage. I'll make inquiries. The next morning, Franklin called with concerning news. The investigator works for David Reynolds, not Allison. He's supposedly in Seattle. Apparently not. My sources indicate he returned 3 days ago and has been meeting with Allison. Victor considered this information carefully. Their reconciliation is irrelevant to proceedings. Unless they're building a new case, the surveillance suggests evidence gathering. For what purpose? All substantive matters are documented. I don't know yet, but I recommend caution. That afternoon, Victor received an unexpected text from Allison. We need to talk. One last time. The park by Riverside at 5. The request seemed innocuous. Yet the timing, following the discovery of surveillance, triggered Victor's analytical instincts. Caution and preparedness would guide his next steps. He agreed to the meeting, but took precautions, activating the recording function on his phone and notifying Franklin of his whereabouts. At the park, Allison was already waiting on a bench, looking considerably recovered from her hospital appearance. She wore a recording device clearly visible on her collar, an unusual choice, unless intentionally signaling its presence. Thank you for coming, she began. Victor remained standing. What did you want to discuss? I've been thinking about everything you said at the hospital. About acknowledgement. And you're right. I was planning your extraction, as you call it. I was systematic. Deliberate. Victor noted her unusual candor. Go on. The affair with David began earlier than you know. 14 months ago, not 10. The financial diversion started then too. Unaware. The forensic accounting was quite thorough. Allison seemed momentarily disconcerted. You knew about all of it? Yes, including your property searches in Seattle dating back to last January. She recovered quickly. Then you also know about the offshore account, the one in the Caymans. Victor's expression didn't change, though this was new information. Of course. And you're not angry about that money. Nearly $100,000. Now Victor understood. This was an attempt to provoke an incriminating response, likely for a recording to support renewed legal action. Anger is unproductive, Allison. If such an account exists, it's already included in the documentation submitted to the court. Her frustration was briefly visible. You really are a machine, aren't you? Nothing touches you. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss? Allison stood, abandoning pretense. David and I are contesting the settlement. We have evidence of your harassment campaign against him. The canceled contracts, the professional sabotage. Interesting theory. Difficult to prove, given I've had no direct contact with his clients. We know what you did, Victor. And we're going to make sure everyone else does too. Victor regarded her calmly. Is that why you're recording this conversation? Hoping for an admission? Allison didn't bother denying it. You've destroyed our lives systematically. Now we're fighting back. Your lives were dismantled by your own actions, Allison. My response was merely proportional. Proportional? You call financial ruin proportional? To planned financial ruin? Yes. The difference is transparency versus deception. As Allison turned to leave, she delivered a final threat. This isn't over, Victor. Not by a long shot. On that point, we agree. Resolution requires acknowledgement, not merely consequence. Victor watched her departure with clinical detachment, then called Franklin immediately. We have a situation. Reynolds is back, and they're planning counteraction. What kind? Legal challenge to the settlement, plus potential defamation. They're gathering evidence. On what grounds? Harassment, professional sabotage, and there's mention of an offshore account I wasn't aware of. Franklin's tone was decisive. I'll investigate immediately. If such an account exists, it strengthens our case for financial impropriety. That evening, Victor briefed Noah and Lily on the development. Your mother and David are attempting to build a harassment case. Noah seemed concerned. Can they do that? They can try. Evidence will determine success. Lily looked troubled. Why can't this just end? Everyone's suffered enough. Because some lessons require complete understanding, not merely pain. Later that night, Victor received an anonymous email containing photographs. David and Allison entering the private investigator's office, meeting with what appeared to be new legal counsel. Most significantly, there were images of David withdrawing cash from an ATM, using a card with foreign bank identifiers. Victor forwarded the images to Franklin with a simple instruction: follow the money. The architect's blueprint was entering its final phase, the intersection where justice and consequence met truth. 7 weeks after the failed Japan trip, Victor's methodical response to betrayal had transformed from reactive measures to a strategic counteroffensive. Franklin Webb's investigation had confirmed the existence of an offshore account in Allison's maiden name, established 13 months earlier with initial funding traced to diverted marital assets. The account contains approximately $97,000. Franklin reported, primarily transfers from your joint business account disguised as vendor payments. Victor nodded. Additional evidence of premeditated financial diversion. How does this impact proceedings? Significantly, undisclosed foreign assets constitute fraud upon the court. We filed emergency motions freezing the account and requesting sanctions. And Reynolds' involvement. He's a signatory on the account. Added 3 months ago. This connects him directly to the financial impropriety. Victor considered this development. Their harassment countersuit becomes less credible with evidence of their own misconduct. Substantially. The judge has scheduled an emergency hearing for tomorrow. After Franklin left, Victor found Noah and Lily in the kitchen, their conversation ceasing abruptly at his appearance. You can continue, Victor said. Transparency builds trust. Noah exchanged glances with Lily. We were talking about Mom's offshore account. Is she going to jail or something? Criminal proceedings are unlikely unless the IRS gets involved. Civil penalties are more probable. Lily looked distressed. This just keeps getting worse. Actions have cascading consequences, Lily, a principle worth remembering. That evening, Victor received a call from a Seattle area code. He answered to find David Reynolds on the line, his voice tense. You found the account? Yes. How? Your reconciliation with Allison triggered increased scrutiny. Professional investigators are quite thorough. David's exhale was audible. What happens now? The legal system addresses fraud appropriately. It was Allison's idea. The account, the transfers. I only became involved recently. Victor noted the attempt at distance, yet you accepted the benefits and participated in the concealment. I'm calling to make a deal. I don't make deals, Reynolds. I pursue resolution. I have information you want about Allison's long-term plans, things you haven't discovered yet. Victor considered this. What do you propose? I provide complete disclosure. In exchange, you drop me from any financial claims related to the offshore funds. You're offering to betray Allison to save yourself. I'm offering the truth. Isn't that what you've wanted all along? After ending the call, Victor contacted Franklin to arrange a deposition for David Reynolds the following morning, before the emergency hearing. Then he texted Allison. Reynolds has offered full disclosure in exchange for immunity from financial claims. Interesting development. Her response was immediate. He's lying. Don't believe anything he says. Victor didn't reply. The architect recognized a load-bearing failure when he saw one. The next morning, Victor observed David's deposition from an adjacent room. The photographer appeared nervous but determined as he described the evolution of his relationship with Allison. She approached me last January when I moved back from Seattle. Said her marriage was effectively over, just waiting for the right time to formalize it. When did financial discussions begin? Franklin asked. Almost immediately. She said Victor controlled everything, and that she needed to secure her future before leaving. Did you question the ethics of these financial transfers? David hesitated. I rationalized it as her claiming what she deserved. She said Victor had systematically undervalued her contributions to their success. When did the offshore account enter the picture? March last year. She established it through a contact of hers, a financial advisor who specializes in high net worth divorces. And your involvement with this account? Initially, none. I became a signatory in February this year, when we began concrete planning for after the divorce. Planning what, specifically? David glanced toward the observation window, knowing Victor was behind it. Relocation to Seattle. Business establishment there. And he paused. Please continue, Mr. Reynolds. Property acquisition. Allison had identified a waterfront home. Down payment was scheduled for July. Using funds from the offshore account. Yes, plus anticipated proceeds from selling their Philadelphia home. Was Victor aware of these plans? No. The timeline had me moving first, establishing our base. Allison would file for divorce after securing maximum assets, then join me with Lily. Noah was expected to remain with Victor for college. And the Japan trip? How did that factor in? David looked down. Dual purpose. Allison would meet with Japanese gallery contacts while establishing our absence patterns to justify the divorce filing. My inclusion was last minute. Allison's birthday celebration. Cover story. Whose idea was it to exclude Victor via text message? Lily suggested it, said a clean break was easier than confrontation. Franklin nodded. And now your current relationship with Allison. Complicated. The offshore account exposure has created tension. After the deposition, Franklin joined Victor in the observation room. Compelling testimony. Corroborates our financial timeline and establishes clear premeditation. His motivation is transparent. Self-preservation at Allison's expense. True. But the factual details align with evidence we've already gathered. The judge will find it credible. At the emergency hearing that afternoon, Allison appeared with new legal counsel, a high-profile divorce attorney known for aggressive tactics. Her demeanor alternated between righteous indignation and visible anxiety as the judge reviewed evidence of the offshore account. When David's deposition was entered into evidence, Allison's composure fractured. He's lying. This is coercion. The judge was unmoved. Miss Caldwell, the financial records corroborate Mr. Reynolds' testimony. The court finds clear evidence of fraudulent concealment of marital assets. The ruling was decisive. Immediate freezing of the offshore account, financial sanctions against Allison, and referral to the IRS for potential tax violations. Most significantly, the previous settlement terms were vacated in light of the fraud upon the court. Outside the courtroom, Allison confronted Victor, her voice low and intense. You turned David against me. David turned himself. Self-preservation is a powerful motivator. This isn't justice, Victor. It's destruction. The distinction matters less than you imagine. That evening, Victor received notification that Allison had been suspended from her professional association pending an ethics investigation, a standard response to financial impropriety allegations. Simultaneously, her remaining photography clients began canceling contracts, their confidence shaken by the public legal proceedings. Noah found Victor in his study, reviewing documentation. Dad, is it true Mom might face criminal charges? Possible, but not certain. Tax authorities treat offshore accounts seriously. And David, he just walks away. His testimony expedited resolution. A practical compromise. Noah studied his father. You don't seem happy, even with total victory. Victor considered this observation. Resolution isn't about happiness, Noah. It's about restoration of balance. What happens to Mom now? She begins again, with clarity about consequences. Later that night, Victor received a text from Lily. Mom's completely broken. Was this always your plan? His response was measured. My plan was proportional response to systematic betrayal. The severity of consequences reflects the depth of deception. The next morning, Franklin arrived with final settlement documents, reflecting the court's revised ruling. Allison receives 15% of marital assets, minus legal fees and sanctions. The offshore account remains frozen pending IRS investigation. Victor reviewed the papers and the professional consequences. Her business is effectively finished in Philadelphia. The professional association suspension makes her uninsurable for commercial work. Reynolds returned to Seattle yesterday. No direct financial penalties, but his professional reputation is severely compromised. 3 major agencies have removed him from their approved photographer lists. Victor signed the documents without comment. The architect's blueprint had manifested exactly as designed. Systematic betrayal met with systematic consequence. That afternoon, Victor received an unexpected visitor. Allison stood on his doorstep. Her appearance was markedly different from the confident woman of weeks earlier. Her posture conveyed defeat, her eyes hollow with exhaustion. "May I come in?" Victor hesitated, then stepped aside. In the living room, Allison remained standing, refusing his offer of a seat. "I need to understand," she began. "Was this always the plan? From the moment you got Lily's text, there was no predetermined plan, only a methodical response appropriate to discovery. But the precision of it, the calculated dismantling of everything I built, mirrored your calculated dismantling of everything we built." Allison shook her head. "Not the same. I was unhappy, seeking escape. You were vengeful, seeking destruction. An interesting distinction without difference. Both approached systematically, both executed without concern for the target. I never intended to destroy you completely, merely extract maximum value while leaving minimum viability, a parasitic rather than predatory approach." Allison flinched. David's testimony confirmed what documentation already established. Your plans were comprehensive and long-term. And now, with everything in ruins, does that satisfy you? Victor studied her. This woman he'd shared 21 years with, now essentially a stranger. Satisfaction isn't the objective. Understanding is. Understanding what? That you're capable of methodical destruction. That betrayal triggers annihilation. That actions have proportional consequences. That betrayal carries unsustainable cost. Allison moved toward the door. "You've become something I don't recognize, Victor." "As have you, Allison. The difference is, I see it clearly." After she left, Victor found Noah waiting in the hallway, having overheard their conversation. "Is it really over now?" Noah asked. Victor nodded. "The legal proceedings are complete. The personal resolution established. And us. Our family, redefined by choice and consequence." That night, Victor sat alone in his study, reviewing the documentation of the past 7 weeks, from Lily's casual text to the final court ruling. The architect's precision had executed a blueprint of perfect proportional response, a structure of consequence built on the foundation of betrayal. A new chapter loomed, one forged from the ashes of the old, dedicated not to revenge, but to clarity, accountability, and unyielding truth. In the silence of his methodical victory, Victor recognized that some structures, once demolished, could never be rebuilt, and that some lessons, once learned, permanently transform the student. The architectural principle held true in human relationships as in buildings. Integrity was non-negotiable, and failure points, once identified, could never be unseen. 3 months after the failed Japan trip, Victor sat in his new office, overlooking the Philadelphia skyline. The managing partner promotion had been formalized the previous week, bringing additional responsibilities and a significant increase in compensation. His systematic handling of personal crisis while maintaining professional excellence had impressed the firm's leadership, demonstrating the precise emotional control valued in international development. The Riverside house had become his permanent residence, its modest dimensions better suited to his reconfigured life. The family home had sold for 12% above market value. The proceeds were distributed according to the final settlement. Allison had relocated to Portland, not Seattle, a deliberate distance from David Reynolds, where she'd found work assisting in a photography studio, her professional credentials under review. Franklin Webb arrived for their final consultation, carrying closing documents for the divorce proceedings. All financial matters are resolved, Franklin reported. The offshore account has been liquidated and distributed per court order. The IRS investigation continues, but criminal charges seem unlikely. Victor signed the documents methodically. And the children's arrangements. Noah remains with you for his final year of high school. Lily has officially transferred to State University, with your financial support continuing. All quite straightforward. Reynolds returned to Seattle permanently. His professional rehabilitation efforts continue with limited success. Victor closed the folder. Then we're complete. Franklin hesitated. There is one matter. Allison has requested a final communication opportunity, a letter delivered through counsel. Victor accepted the sealed envelope without expression. Thank you for your exceptional service, Franklin. After the attorney departed, Victor opened Allison's letter and read its contents carefully. Victor, this letter represents my final communication outside legal channels. 3 months of reflection have provided clarity I lacked previously. First, acknowledgement. My actions were deliberate, sustained, and designed to extract maximum benefit while minimizing your awareness. The offshore account, the relationship with David, the systematic financial diversion, all calculated components of an extraction strategy I convinced myself was justified. Second, recognition. Your response, while devastating, was proportional. You applied the same methodical precision to consequence that I applied to betrayal. The symmetry is undeniable. I won't ask forgiveness. That concept seems irrelevant to the architectural mind you've always possessed, the mind I once admired before resenting. Instead, I offer understanding. I recognize now what you meant by betrayal carries unsustainable cost. The price continues long after payment begins. David and I have ended all contact, not from your machinations, but from the fundamental recognition that relationships built on betrayal cannot sustain scrutiny. The offshore account that symbolized our future became the evidence that destroyed it. Lily struggles with her role in this collapse. Her participation, while less calculated than mine, reflected a moral flexibility I cultivated. Another consequence I failed to anticipate. I don't know if you find satisfaction in the comprehensive nature of my defeat. Knowing you, I suspect you view it clinically. A natural outcome of actions taken, forces applied, structures tested beyond tolerance. Portland offers reconstruction opportunity, modest, appropriate to my diminished credentials, but viable. I begin again with clear understanding of architectural principles you always embodied. Integrity is non-negotiable, and failure points, once identified, can never be unseen. I'll listen. Victor placed the letter in his file with the other documentation of their dissolution. The architect recognized the structural integrity of her insights, the foundation of understanding now properly established. That evening, Noah found Victor in his home office, reviewing plans for his first international project as managing partner. Dad, can we talk about college? Victor set aside the plans. Of course. I've been thinking about architectural engineering instead of pure engineering after watching you these past months. An unexpected influence. Noah shrugged. I saw something I didn't understand before. How you build and unbuild things. How you see structures others don't. An architectural mind has advantages and limitations. Yeah, I noticed both. Noah hesitated. Lily called earlier. She's struggling at State. Said she misses Westfield. Natural adjustment difficulties. She asked if you'd reconsider. Let her transfer back. Victor considered this request. Actions have consequences, Noah. Reversing them undermines the lesson. I know. That's what I told her. Noah studied his father. You're never going to forgive them, are you? Mom, Lily. Any of them. Forgiveness implies emotional resolution. What's occurred is structural resolution. What's the difference? Emotional resolution requires sentiment. Structural resolution requires only balance. Noah processed this distinction, and you're satisfied with that. Just balance. No real connection. Connection requires reliability. Reliability requires integrity. The structural failure revealed absence of both. Later that night, Victor received a text from Lily. I understand why you won't let me return to Westfield. Just wanted you to know I'm trying to accept the consequences. His response was measured. Growth begins with acceptance, Lily. Your new foundation will be stronger for the lessons learned. Acceptance is the foundation of reconstruction. 2 days later, Victor visited the former family home, now transformed by the new owners. Every trace of the life he'd shared with Allison had been erased. New paint, new fixtures, new landscaping. The Spanish courtyard where they'd celebrated anniversaries was now a children's play area. The kitchen where family dinners had marked the passage of years now featured ultra-modern appliances and unfamiliar configurations. As Victor surveyed this complete transformation, he experienced not loss, but confirmation. Structures, once compromised, could not be restored. They could only be replaced. At the Riverside house, he found Noah packing for a weekend with friends. Will you be okay alone, Dad? Victor nodded. Of course. My existence doesn't require continuous companionship. Noah studied his father. You know, most people would still be angry. Or sad. Or something. Those emotions serve no constructive purpose at this stage. Maybe not, but they'd prove you're still human. After Noah departed, Victor received an unexpected call from Russell at the firm. The Palmer Project client has requested you specifically for their Seattle development. International Committee approved it this morning. Seattle. Interesting coincidence. Not coincidence. They heard about your methodical handling of the divorce while maintaining professional excellence. Impressed the hell out of them. Victor considered the symmetry. Professional advancement arising from personal dissolution. When would this begin? Next month. Initial site visit, then periodic oversight. You'd remain Philadelphia-based, but travel there regularly. After the call, Victor opened his laptop to research Seattle properties. The architectural mind recognized opportunity in geographic intersection. Reynolds' professional community now potentially intersecting with Victor's expanded territory. Not for revenge. That concept was emotional and imprecise. But for completion, the final structural verification that integrity determines sustainability. That evening, Victor received a text from an unknown Seattle member. Heard you might be working on the Palmer Seattle project. Wanted you to know I've removed myself from consideration for the photography contract. Some structures shouldn't intersect again. Victor didn't respond. The message confirmed his architectural assessment. Reynolds had finally recognized that some failure points could never be reinforced. 3 days later, Victor attended Noah's school academic award ceremony. His son's engineering scholarship recognition represented continuation of structural integrity across generations. Values transmitted through example rather than instruction. As they drove home afterward, Noah broached the subject they'd both avoided. I talked to Mom yesterday. How was she adjusting? Surviving, not thriving. She asked about you. What did you tell her? The truth, that you're exactly the same, just pointed in different directions now. Victor nodded. An accurate assessment. She said something weird. Said to tell you she finally understands what you meant about betrayal having unsustainable cost. Said the price continues long after the bill comes due. A belated but valid insight. Noah studied his father's profile. Will you ever talk to her again? Outside of legal matters about you and Lily, there's no constructive purpose in such communication. What about Lily? She's really trying, Dad. Lily's efforts are acknowledged. Her education continues to be supported. Additional reconciliation requires demonstrated understanding, not merely regret. That night, Victor reviewed the final documentation of the divorce proceedings, the complete architectural record of dissolution and reconstruction. Each decision, each response, each consequence was meticulously documented and filed, not for emotional validation, not for vindictive satisfaction, but for structural verification that integrity, once compromised, could never be restored, only replaced with new foundations built on uncompromising principles. The architect had designed not just buildings, but consequences with the same precision, patience, and uncompromising attention to detail that defined his professional excellence. And in that precision, Victor Reeves had established an irrefutable principle. Betrayal carried unsustainable cost. A structural law as immutable as gravity, as definitive as load-bearing failure, and as permanent as architectural collapse. The blueprint was complete. The structure stood, and the architect moved forward, his foundations uncompromised.